the quality and quantity of starter candidates that we're going to bring into camp. And we'll see how it shakes out. But all of those guys are going to have huge roles and contributions to the season. We got a long season ahead of us. It's arduous. We're in the American League East. We're going to need each and every one of those guys to pitch well.
The NFL Scouting Combine is later this month, and once again, Maryland will be well represented. The Terps are sending 4 to Indianapolis in 2 weeks. 2 offensive linemen, including starting left tackle DJ Glaze, and 2 defensive backs, River Hills' Bo Braid, and 2 second-team All-Big Ten and Tar Heaps Still was 6th in the country for interceptions this past season with 5. Maryland has now sent 11 players to the Combine the last 2 seasons, with 5 drafted last year. Michigan is sending a record 18 players to the Scouting Combine. That's 2 more than LSU's record for 2020, and that's when the Ravens drafted Patrick Queen in the first round.
All right, looking ahead towards the weekend. Why not? It's only Tuesday. We might as well try to see if we can find something worth it. Well, we're in the 40s most of the weekend. Unfortunately, there will be a chance for some showers, and they could be in the form of either snow or rain showers on Saturday. We're still watching that, but at the very least, we should have 2 dry days in there for you. Okay.
Gerard, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 6 o'clock tonight, lawmakers debate a slew of juvenile crime bills, the latest out of Annapolis. The leader of the 59 Hoover gang is found guilty. Find out how authorities dismantled the gang.
Lawmakers meeting in Annapolis today to talk about new juvenile crime bills, why some are saying the current system isn't working. A guilty verdict for the leader of the 59 Hoover gang. We walk you through the years-long investigation. City Council talks about plans for the city's iconic Harbor Place, a closer look at the potential renovation.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Mary Bubala. A Senate committee hearing testimony on new juvenile crime bills today. Lawmakers debating lots of bills surrounding juvenile justice for hours today in Annapolis. Now, one of those bills, a proposal to get the state's attorney's office involved earlier in the charging process. It would require DJS to send notices to state's attorney's offices sooner before charging decisions are made. It would also extend the length of probation for certain offenses. A juvenile attorney in the Frederick County State's Attorney's Office told lawmakers what's happening right now with the current system simply isn't working.
The Department of Juvenile Services absolutely has to fill out another piece of paper and send it to the State's Attorney's Office. It requires more work of the State's Attorney's Office, and we're in favor of it because we have a community that is very upset about how things are handled at the Department of Juvenile Services. And the fact is that if they do, what's happening at the department is not satisfying to our community. And it's just a revolving door of these youth in and out, and absolutely no checks and balances.
Meantime, a new Gonzalez research poll highlighting a range of issues for lawmakers to tackle, including Governor Moore's approval rating, the issue of stolen firearms, and increasing taxes for transportation projects. Right now, there's an estimated $3 billion budget shortfall in the Department of Transportation over the next several years. The governor is dipping into the rainy day fund to help offset some of the cuts this budget year, but that doesn't solve the long-term funding concerns. The latest poll asked voters about raising the sales tax from 6% to 7% to fund roads and transit. 37% of voters support raising the sales tax, while 60% oppose it.
And the reality is a penny equals 6%, which is currently the sales tax, to 7%. So I think it's fair. Now, if we go the other direction, I can make a very good case. If you increase the sales tax from 6% to 7%, yeah, it's a penny, but 6 to 7 is a 16.666% increase.
Lawmakers aren't just considering raising sales tax. They say there's a lot of conversation surrounding how to handle the increased use of electric vehicles while not paying that gas tax. Right now, it doesn't look like there will be much movement on funding solutions this session, but there could be next year. A guilty verdict for the leader of the 59 Hoover gang, which operated out of Howard County, marks the end of a nearly 4-year-long case. Alexa Ashwell has more on the verdict and how authorities dismantled this gang.
Jeremy Quinton Lewis, the named leader of the 59 Hoover gang, a subset of the notorious Crips that officials say had staked its claim in Columbia, Maryland, found guilty of murder and other gang-related charges.
Good morning, everyone.
Howard County State's Attorney Rich Gibson making the announcement alongside Howard County Executive Calvin Ball and area law enforcement leaders. All 8 members of the 59 Hoover gang, indicted 2 years ago, now convicted. Its leader, Lewis, the latest.
This last case, involving 8 members of the 59 Hoover criminal gang, has concluded with the conviction of its leader.
The investigation into the 59 Hoover gang dates back to 2020, when officials say investigators determined the gang was responsible for committing the most serious crimes in Howard County.
Our investigators determined that many, if not most, of the serious crimes in Howard County could be linked to this small group. Investigations of guns, drugs, and violence kept leading to the same suspects.
2 years later, the members were indicted. This court document detailing the hierarchy of the gang, how members used drugs and guns to carry out their criminal enterprise, and specific murders, shootings, assaults, and robberies investigators say they committed throughout Howard County. Lewis just found guilty of one of those murders, the May 2021 shooting death of Jaden Ely at a gas station in Columbia. Authorities linked the gang to at least one other killing, charging another one of its leaders, Daquan Woodson, with the May 2020 murder of Yasel Galvin.
Another defendant was Daquan Woodson, pled guilty to conspiracy to commit robbery, use of a firearm in a commission of a crime of violence, assault in the first degree, and gang involvement. He received a sentence of 65 years, suspended all but 18 years.
Here, it details Woodson was an adjudicated delinquent, meaning as a youth he was found by a judge to have violated a criminal law. His conviction in this case speaking to the ongoing calls for reform to the juvenile justice system, as whatever consequence he faced did not deter further criminal behavior.
There was drugs, there was gun offenses, there was gun dealing, there were assaults, controlling turf.
A shocking reality to some. Colombia has been named the safest city in America twice in recent years. Officials questioned on that.
We've taken a significant step in reducing their involvement here in Howard County. As long as people continue to look out for one another and speak up when they see things that are in error, we can work together to ensure that our safety remains a paramount virtue for this community.
Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Well, the future of Baltimore's iconic Harbor Place was the topic of debate at City Hall today. City Council is considering legislation on zoning and a possible charter amendment to allow new apartments flanking the harbor. The proposal is looking to add hundreds of housing units, retail and commercial space. Today, a City Council committee heard public input on bills to amend land use, zoning and height restrictions along the inner harbor. There's been a mixed response.
Whether you love it, you hate it, you're not sure, folks are interested in what could potentially happen here.
Well, the council also debated a proposed charter amendment that would allow multifamily housing units at the harbor. The charter amendment would need to go to Baltimore City voters for approval.
We have breaking news out of the Middle East. 74 Palestinians are dead after Israel's recent military assault on Rafah. 2 hostages were freed in that raid early Monday morning. It comes as officials appear to make progress toward another ceasefire and hostage release deal. Hamas abducted around 250 people October 7th. Israeli officials say about 100 hostages remain in Hamas captivity. According to the health ministry in Gaza, the overall Palestinian death toll has now exceeded 28,000 people. This is a developing story. Stay with Fox 45 News for the latest updates on air and online.
Out here shoveling snow this morning. Wasn't expecting it at all. Yesterday I was outside breaking like we were talking about. Now today it's snowing.
I was expecting some snow. I was not expecting the school to be canceled.
Well, residents across Maryland woke up today to some snowy conditions this morning. Some school systems even got a snow day, but not everybody very happy about it. Parents taking to Twitter to voice their frustration with the decision. Some saying it is literally just raining, temps above freezing, closed for rain, and add a day to the end of the year. I went to school in the snow when I was a kid. Another tweeting it's going to be close to 50 degrees today, and another calling the decision crazy, saying closing because it's cold and a little snow. It's called winter, but others pointing out that conditions are not always what you see out your window, and they're different in other parts of the county. Gerald saying it was snowing hard north of where a lot of the people live, and roads were covered in snow. Now, Chief Meteorologist Gerard Bailey joins us now with what we can expect going into the rest of the week. Most of the snow gone. Kids will go back to school tomorrow for sure.
They absolutely will. And whether or not we had a few inches, or maybe it was back in someone else's day where they went to school in 3 feet of snow, blowing sideways, uphill both ways. I sound like my dad when I was saying that. We've heard that story before. Of course, it's a different time. Now we have things called liability. Ooh, tough one to deal with nowadays, but that's the way it goes. All right, so here's how things are a lot quieter now. Yes, some snow definitely impacted parts of our northern counties, and they brought some problems on the roads, but not everywhere. It's 41 degrees right now. Still the wind up a bit, but it's come down a lot since earlier this afternoon. We were gusting 25. We're seeing a few places still sort of gusting. Stevensville, Annapolis still gusting over about 10 to 15 miles per hour, but that storm system continues to pull away, and it brought a lot of snow right there along between northern New Jersey all the way to New England and Cape Cod. Once this system's long gone, but it's not like we're going to just be completely devoid of any weather for a while like we've been, because it's been so quiet. This is the first storm system we've had in some time. We are going to be quiet for the rest of the night, though, hour by hour, dropping to the mid-30s as we tick past around noon. But tomorrow is not going to be exactly the warmest of days either. 42 degrees by your afternoon's about it. We will have more breeze, but just around the corner, we're already going to be talking about another chance of snow. That's right. But this one's happening on a Saturday, and so I don't think we have to worry about school cancellations, but we're going to show you that one anyway coming up.
Gerard, thanks. What will it take to pass aid to Ukraine and Israel? That's the question the House hopes to answer as the president puts pressure on Congress to get it done. As the crisis at the border continues, why New York City officials are concerned over gangs recruiting migrants.
Join us on Monday, February 19th from 7 to 8 p.m. when Governor Wes Moore, Maryland State Attorney Ivan Bates, and Prince George's County State Attorney Aisha Brayboy join us to discuss crime, solutions, and the community. I'm Armstrong Williams.
House Speaker Mike Johnson is signaling that emergency funding for Ukraine and Israel is dead on arrival in the House, even though the bill sailed through the Senate. Johnson says the House is going to, quote, work its will on the need for emergency funding. He hasn't indicated what that means other than perhaps breaking it up into smaller parts for a vote. The White House says Congress needs to act.
There is no magical pot of money from which to draw to try to support these allies and these partners, and to try to support, oh, by the way, significant humanitarian assistance needs, not just in Gaza, but elsewhere around the world. Congress needs to act. They need to be the ones.
President Biden also putting pressure on House Republicans to put the bill on the floor. The more than $95 billion foreign aid bill includes assistance for Ukraine, Israel, and civilians in Gaza. Meanwhile, House Republicans are expected to try to impeach DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas again for his handling of the border crisis. It comes as New York City faces an increase in crime with gangs recruiting these migrants. Sinclair national correspondent Janae Bowens has a look at the growing issues.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Top leaders in New York City say a wave of migrant crime has washed over the city. Although murders, rapes, and burglaries are down, robberies are up by more than 8% compared to this time last year. And there are several headlines of foreign gang members terrorizing innocent New Yorkers and a teen migrant accused of shooting and injuring a tourist in Times Square.
They avoid apprehension and make their way to every town, city, and state.
Nearly 800,000 migrants have crossed the southern border in fiscal year 2024 so far. And according to the New York Post, some of those migrants are part of a brutal Venezuelan gang. Their members are reportedly going to New York City and recruiting members and migrant shelters, and could also be joining forces with the MS-13 gang. Former acting commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection, Mark Morgan, says it's an issue that's been going on all over the country for years.
A lot of these individuals, they don't speak the language, they have no job skills, they have no familiar connection here, and no way to make a living, and so they make just prime targets for gang recruitment.
The gang members are accused of riding mopeds to steal people's phones. They then drain the victims' bank accounts and send the phones to Colombia to be wiped, reprogrammed, and sold. On top of that, 7 migrants have been indicted in connection to an assault of 2 NYPD officers last month.
The overwhelming number of migrants and asylum seekers are law-abiding, and they're pursuing the American dream. And this district attorney's office and the NYPD will partner with each other to pursue those who break the laws in our city.
The mayor has put in a curfew for 20 more migrant shelters.
We should be coming up with policies and throwing our money at the border to secure the border, to stop the chaos and lawlessness, to stop criminals from entering the country.
Many calling for more action at the border to keep Americans safe. I'm Janae Bowens reporting.
Good evening, and so far we have at least been able to escape a major storm system. Today we did have the snowfall, but it wasn't the one that really causes major issues, except for a few places. Everywhere to the north really seemed to have got the most of it. 4 to 7 inches everywhere from northern Frederick County up towards Washington, Garrett counties all seem to have gotten the worst of it. As you went further south, there was less and less snowfall. In fact, there was a pretty big difference between northern Baltimore County and southern. Pretty big difference, around 3.5 inches over there you can see measured in Lineborough. Now, some places did see it covering the roads, making it a little tough to get around. But in and around some of the cities where they had some treatment down, but also it wasn't quite as cold or as heavy. The snow mostly collected in grassy surfaces. And by the way, these numbers are mostly measured in the grass. Now, the temperatures were just a smidge warmer than what we would really need in order for it to collect on the ground. That was the good news, and that made it a lot easier to handle. Quiet night out there to begin with, as you saw, and well, we're going to stay pretty quiet. The breeze is coming down. The temperatures will too. We're in the 40s to upper 30s right now, and overnight we may just see just a few passing clouds. Getting cold though. We're going to drop below the freezing mark easily and into the 20s. Some places that still have snow on the ground could even be a little bit colder than that. Just kind of keeps it a lot chillier when that happens. But as we move through your day tomorrow, we'll see the sunshine coming back. It will be breezy, warming up to only around 40 to 42 degrees for your afternoon. So still another chilly one on tap, but otherwise nice. We'll see again those temperatures dropping again for your Wednesday night and a Thursday ahead of this next system coming. This one's pretty small, pretty weak. It's going to do more to our temperatures than anything. Perhaps a stray sprinkle late Thursday night, but we'll have a brief warm up as it approaches, and then it's going to knock our temperatures back down as that cold front goes by before this one arrives. This one's got a better chance of bringing us some precipitation. Will it be snow? Well, this one right now is saying there's a potential for that. Other model data is still kind of on the fence about it. We'll be watching, but there is some potential. We could see that as we move into Saturday. Again, a few days away, so we're going to track it for you carefully, bring you the latest updates when we get them. Your Valentine's Day forecast, of course, breezy and chilly, high of around 41 degrees. And as you head out the door, maybe for the evening dinners, it might be still only in the 30s, so kind of chilly. But your weekend looking good, 45 degrees. On Friday, 42 on Saturday is that chance for some rainfall and snow. We'll be back in just a bit. Talk about your 10-day forecast.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
A heavy wet snow fell across the Northeast today, from a winter wonderland in West Hartford, Connecticut, to a snowplow clearing a downed tree in Rhode Island. The streets and sidewalks of New York City could see the most snow in 2 years, while this shot of Penn State's campus is postcard-worthy. Finally, the same system triggered flash flooding yesterday in Tuskegee, Alabama.
Listen to Off the Radar. New episodes every Tuesday. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.
A third inmate in Alabama found with organs missing after his death, why his family is speaking out tonight. New questions about autopsies, missing organs, and medical ethics surrounding the bodies of deceased inmates in Alabama. Cynthia Gould from our Sinclair sister station in Birmingham spoke with one family demanding answers.
It was like a stone hit it in my heart. And ain't nobody gave them no authorization.
Angolia Moore's youngest son is buried here in a South Alabama cemetery.
He was the apple of the eye, and he was the baby.
Moore said she had just talked to her son Kelvin 90 minutes before a call came from the prison saying he had overdosed.
He said, "Do you have a son in Limestone?" "No, you have somebody in Limestone." I said, "Yes, I have a son." "Well, he's dead."
Shock turned to horror when the family heard from the funeral director.
He said, "There's no organs in his body," and we just hit the ceiling.
It's deep. It's like a wound that'll never get healed.
The family determined to retrieve the organs for burial from UAB Hospital's pathology department, where the autopsy was performed. Their brother Simone was given a plastic biohazard bag with the organs inside. It was a 4-hour drive home to Mobile.
For about 2 hours, it was nothing. I had no words. I had plenty of tears until I was all cried out. And what makes it even worse is not knowing. And so what if they're not his organs? Where are his organs?
The body may have to be exhumed to answer that question. The Alabama Department of Corrections contracts with UAB to perform some autopsies. Experts say only in rare cases would organs be kept. Tissue samples are used for any follow-up. Dominic Sisti is an associate professor of medical ethics at the University of Pennsylvania.
It is, I think, an ethical duty of the prison system and of the correctional system to be in constant communication with family members on this point. This is an important matter of trust. It's an important thing for families to be able to begin the process of healing.
Federal court documents reveal a group of UAB medical students raised ethics concerns, asking was there informed consent to use organs, tissues for research or teaching.
They should not be using organs to teach with without consent of the patient or the family. That's just a no-brainer from an ethics perspective.
Another court document reads the prison warden provides consent and always signs for no restrictions on what specimens can be used for. UAB has declined to be interviewed but provided a statement which reads in part, autopsy consent includes consent for final disposition of the organs and tissues unless specifically requested. Organs are not returned to the body.
So if you feel like in your heart that what you're doing to people, loved ones,